My name is Stacey Anderson. I'm part of the animal care staff here at the Marine Mammal Conservancy. Currently we have an Atlantic spotted dolphin who's believed to be somewhere between 1 and 5 years of age. He arrived on February 14th, and his story is as follows. He basically was swimming around at the Trumbo Point Naval Base down in Key West alone. He was swimming in patterns and circles down in a little corner of the naval base amongst a lot of different boats. He was spotted approximately 2 to 3 days before the phone call was made to National Marine Fisheries Services, which is the governing body that oversees us. The person that originally spotted him thought perhaps it was not too abnormal for a single dolphin that of a young age to be swimming around by itself, so they didn't make the phone call immediately. When we did receive the phone call, we immediately sent a team down to go down and evaluate the situation, and we started behavioral observations immediately. So documentation began right off the bat. We went down, we had a look at him. He was malnourished, and we immediately started to think that he was not an Atlantic bottlenose dolphin. He seemed to have an elongated rostrum and a little bit more of a falcate, more curved and taller dorsal fin. So we had teams watching him from sunup till sundown that lived down in the Key West area that were available to be there. And our team from up here traveled down for the next 2 to 3 consecutive days to go down and watch him. We got more definitive pictures of him, and it was determined that he was probably one of the Stenella dolphins, one of the spotted dolphins. Pictures did determine pretty much that he was an Atlantic spotted dolphin. We did not notice any feeding behavior at all during the entire time that we observed him, which again was from sunup till sundown. I think it was about 5 days that we observed him, if not 7 days. I'm not sure, I would have to go back and look at records, but it was a good period of time. We were asked by National Marine Fisheries Services after our behavioral observations to go ahead and acquire the animal, that this was an animal that was not feeding, was underweight, and B, was out of habitat, because Atlantic spotted dolphins and pantropical spotted dolphins, if that's what he was, because we were unsure at the time, both lived in deep waters off of the continental shelf. So he was considered to be an out of habitat animal. On February 14th, we got a phone call that he was now in the Key West Yacht Club, basically canal, another little harbor. And he was swimming the same patterns, and he had lost more weight. And we went down, we acquired him very calmly, very quietly and efficiently. There was no stress to the animal that we observed. His breathing pattern didn't change. He remained very calm throughout it, and we transported him via wet box inside of a van with our transport team, which includes the staff veterinarian, and he arrived here at 10:30 p.m. on February 14th and was put into a critical care pool for assessment. He is a young animal, even though we don't know his exact age. He is still considered a young animal, and we wanted to make sure that he wasn't put into an unfamiliar area in the darkness of night to swim around and bump into things and be unaware of his surroundings and get frightened and stressed. Well, our first objective was to get him healthy. He was underweight, he was malnourished and dehydrated, he had an elevated white blood count, so we had several things that we needed to do to make him medically stable, and that takes time. So, especially the gaining weight part. So we've accomplished most of those goals. We had to, almost all marine mammals come in with parasites of some sort, so they have to gain enough weight before you put a poison into their system, because a dewormer is a poison. So they have to be medically stable enough to be able to introduce that dewormer into them. So that took quite a few weeks of him having enough time to gain enough weight to be considered stable enough to be dewormed. We did just finish the deworming regimen, and he has gained a considerable amount of weight. You can see he looks quite robust at the moment. When he came in, when he would turn, you could see his ribs when he turned. He did have a peanut head. His flanks were sunken in. When he did a diving maneuver, you could see his flanks sunken in quite a bit. So he has gained quite a bit of weight. So that was our main objective. We weren't even thinking about anything other than getting him healthy. At this point in time, what we will do is we will do a behavioral analysis on him. And what that consists of is determining whether or not he can hunt. what we'll do is, here at the Marine Mammal Conservancy, we do what's called behavioral conditioning. We do hand feed. The reason for that is we have to acquire these animals once a week for a blood draw, for weighing them, for other medical procedures, whether it be getting a gastric sample, which involves putting a tube down their throat. That can all be very stressful for the animal. So we feel like getting them used to us being around them and having our hands on them to some degree makes those medical procedures far less stressful for them, because they're used to having us have our hands on them in some shape or form. It doesn't mean we're out there hugging the dolphins and petting them and playing with them all the time. It means that when we feed them, we ask for a simple target. They know what it means. When we target the animal, they'll come, they'll put their rostrum on our hand, and we can have them hold there and look over their entire body every time we do a feed, whichever hand we use to look at each side to do a medical evaluation and have a good look over the animal each time we do a feed and see if they have any new marks, if there are any pox lesions that are showing up, it's things like that, indicators of stress. So we will start weaning him off of that, which we've already started doing. We're starting to throw fish more for him, so he has to start looking for his food, because dolphins that wind up in a rehabilitative facility that are hand-fed stop having to look for their food if they're hand-fed. So they stop using their echolocation. So what we start doing is throwing fish for them, so their echolocation starts clicking on. They realize they have to use their scanning and they have to look for their food again. We will document everything that he does, as we do all the time. We write down everything that this dolphin does, as we do every marine mammal in our care. And then there will be a determination made based on his ability to hunt by our president and other biologists on staff, along with Dr. Denise Herzing, who is an expert on Atlantic spotted dolphins and has been studying them in the wild for over 23 years now, over in the Bahamas. A recommendation will be made by those people, and then National Marine Fisheries will take into consideration our recommendation, and a determination will be made on him. If he is determined releasable, he will be what's called a conditional release. Because of his age, because he is still a young dolphin, even though we don't definitively know how old he is, he would be a conditional release, which means that he would have to be tagged so that we could track him, and we would have to find a pod of Atlantic spotted dolphins to release him into, and we would have to monitor him for about, we're thinking probably 7 to 10, maybe 2 weeks afterwards, if he does integrate into the pod. If he does not integrate into the pod successfully, we would have to reacquire him and bring him back into the rehabilitative setting and place him into a managed care facility. If he does not hunt successfully, we know that he won't survive in the wild, and Marine Mammal Conservancy's mission has been to release from the very beginning. That's what we do. But we're not going to set an animal up to fail. So if he can't hunt successfully, our recommendation would be for him to be placed into a managed care facility. And in the many years that we've been doing this, so far we've only had to place 2 animals into managed care facilities, and they have wonderful homes. One is Castaway, the deaf dolphin, who lives over at Dolphins Plus. She's deaf, she can't efficiently hunt, she couldn't survive in the wild. And the other one is a young rough-toothed calf who her mother died during the mass stranding of rough-toothed dolphins in 2005. So there was no way that she could learn life's lessons, and she was deemed non-releasable, and she lives at Gulf World up in Panama City, and she is one of the favorite attractions there for people to come and interact with, and we call that edutainment. People come and learn about the animals, they get to interact with them and meet them in a personal way that what we hope promotes stewardship in people that may not have ever wanted to get involved and help these animals in another way. So if we have to place him in a managed care facility, we would much rather do that than see him go out into the wild and fail at it.